We managed to make it to the final day of the Corrupted Cup, which is a huge accomplishment for me because competition in TFT nowadays is very, very tough because there are a lot of different generations. There's like the OG generations, there's like the Zoomer generation, and there's now even like a newer Zoomer generation that like take over the competitive TFT space. Meanwhile, I'm over here. I'm barely making everything. I'm getting into the next days and stuff. We started at day 1, barely made day 2, barely made day 3, barely made day 4, and now we're finally there. This is the time to prove everything. And hopefully if we do well here, do well in some other tournament as well, we can make the regional finals to hopefully try to get to the World Championship. If you have not watched the previous days yet, I highly recommend you do so before watching this video because we had some amazing comebacks. For example, one of the days we started off with 8th, then 8th, and then we ran it all the way back to qualify for the next round. And literally every mistake, every little point mattered in these games because we just barely made everything. But without further ado, let's just get right into the games because I know you all are really excited to watch this video. So we want to start off with the bow again. Even though we did horribly with Samira and did well with everything else yesterday, it's still the best comp. You can't let past results affect you in the future. But instead of getting the bow, we go for the belt because it was a little too contested. In a day 4, there isn't really like a point total you're aiming for. You're just trying to do as well as you can in every game. The reason why is because you want to try to win the tournament now, and to win the tournament, you need the most points possible. There are a few cutoffs. After 5 games, they go from 32 to 16 players, and then after game 6, they go from 16 to 8 players. We start off this game with belt, chain, and rod. Pretty decent. We could slam a Sunfire, and then we get a 1-2-1 augment. So Camille is decent here, but we don't have any of the renegades, so that's why we don't go for it. Cyclone. We could do a Cyclone game, but not the best Wukong items. Petricite Chains, no Anmas, no Renegades, so we're going to have to reroll a little bit. What are we looking for? Literally just anything else. Same story here, not much usable here. Rocket Grab, not that great. Ruthless Blades, we don't have items. Boxing Lessons, that's the first takeable one that we see, and I think we should just grab this even though we don't really have any brawlers. We scout around, there are 3 Cleansing Safeguard players. Let's take a quick poll because we talked about this in the other day. What place do you guys think that they're going to finish? Write it down in the comments below because I'd be interested in your guesses. For example, you could say 1, 2, 3, you could say 6, 7, 8, you could say 1, 5, 8. Any 3 numbers, just guess what places they get in this game. Okay, so we face off one of them here. He only has 1 Lee Sin, so we're able to grab a quick win, especially since we slammed an item, and Boxing Lessons is just a really good augment. We get another Vi here, but unfortunately not too many good things to put in right now. We drop in a Senna, and then we're facing off against another Boxing Lesson person, but he has Sivir 2 and a Vayne, so it's most likely going to take a loss here. Even though we do have the Wukong 2, it's just not the same power level as what he has, especially since we don't have any synergies for our Wukong. We probably should have actually played the Poppy here because you always want to put synergies on whoever you have upgraded, and we just did not have a Vi upgrade. So if that's the case, like small mistake there, I probably should have sold GP, bought the Poppy, and put her in. After a quick scout, we find out that there are 2 boxing players, 3 cleansing safeguards, a Soul Eater one, and then this Galio player here. So we are going to probably win this round. We put in 3 Laser Core. I added in Yasuo and Renekton because Renekton gives Brawler for Vi, and then Yasuo is obviously the 3rd Laser Core with Senna in the backline. I like 3 Laser Core at the start. It's pretty solid. The units are all just pretty decent in the early game. Like Yasuo always gets good stuns off, and Renekton's just a beast. I played this carousel pretty greedy. I'm thinking I want to go Laser Core, so I go for the Spatula, but I should have just taken the sword here, just build a Hextech Gunblade. I just realized when I did the augment rundown before, I only mentioned 6 different augments. The last player has Reign of Anger Renekton, but he doesn't have any copies of Renekton, so I don't know if that's completely forcible when you have 0 copies. It seems a little risky to me. I would only play it maybe if I had maybe 2 Renektons at least, like definitely not with only just 1. From the Krugs, we get some gold, we get a bow, and we get another bow. So this is when things get a little iffy because our Spatula is kind of looking dead. We also had a Jax in our previous shop in stage 2-6, and then we saw 2 Riven, so I kind of regret not picking them up. But Jax isn't like that great of a comp, it just so happened that we got 2 bows. This is what like kind of hindsight gaming is kind of like, because you could say like, hey, why didn't you buy the Jax there? You could have had like perfect brawler game with double bow and a rod for him, but you can't expect just to get a double bow drop off of Krugs, so that's one way of like identifying who is using hindsight a little too much. As much as I would have liked that to happen, I personally would not count on getting 2 bows. Our Laser Core dream ends when we see the Sure Shot crown. There's just no way I'm not taking that with 2 bows and Senna already. You also get an Infinity Edge when you take that, and then I just drop in 4 Brawlers. So I'm scouting around, like one person got the Think Fast Lee Sin, so he is pretty chillin'. This person only has 1 copy still, so he is not chillin'. So it really depends. When you are contested, it obviously makes the augment a lot worse. But again, like triple contested for a 2-cost comp, that doesn't really happen too much in the history of TFT, especially when you don't need Lee Sin 3-star. I'm actually starting to wonder if there was ever a similar situation in the history of TFT. We built a Rage Blade before because we didn't want to sit on 4 components, and here we just pick up the glove for Last Whisper. We have 3 items on our Senna. She got to 2-star, so this game is pretty chillin', especially since we didn't have to roll yet. Unfortunately, this guy did roll, and he has a bunch of 2-stars. 2-star Kaisa, 2-star Cho'Gath. So he's actually pretty tough. This is kind of like what people mean when they talk about bad matchmaking RNG. You essentially don't want to face the players with low gold because that means they made their team stronger. But we do luck out, get a Samira here, and then drop in 4 Sure Shots. We obviously won the last round. We get a sword and a belt. I decide to level up here and roll like just a tiny bit because I do want some tanks. I'm actually not sure if I should have waited though. Perhaps I should have waited for a 4-5 roll down because we do have 2-star Senna. We do have a 1-star Samira without a pair. So I'm thinking maybe we could have sacked 3 rounds, rolled on 4-5 at level 8. Maybe that could have been a little bit better. I think if I did have like some tank pairs, rolling on 4-1 at level 7 probably would have been fine. But since I already had 2-star Senna and no pairs of anything else, I'm not really sure if that was optimal. I think that was a mistake here. We face off against Woodland Charm, Reign of Anger, Renekton. Luckily, he does not have Renekton 3 yet, because this definitely makes the matchup a ton easier. Able to make quick work of him. The Rage Blade definitely helps in this matchup. We see Knife's Edge, Sure Shot, and Uplink, and I think I make a mistake here. I don't think you actually want 2 Sure Shot emblems. My argument is like, yes, 4 Sure Shot is a very good trait, and this makes it really easy to get. However, who is going to hold the Sure Shot emblems? Because if you don't make good use of them, it's probably like a waste of an item, right? Because you could have just gotten stats from a different way. So the only 2 holders I can think of is going to be Bel'Veth and Urgot. Obviously, putting them on a tank isn't the end of the world. Like I have it on Cho'Gath here. You still get benefits from it, but the unit itself doesn't really benefit from Sure Shot trait. What essentially happens, though, is that you run out of items, because how are you going to itemize like 3 different offensive units, Bel'Veth, Urgot, and the Samira, and then still have like some decent tank items? So it's a bit of an odd situation, to say the least. So we face off against a Think Fast Lee Sin. Obviously, we're going to lose against this. It's just way too broken of an augment, and he has Sona 3 with like a decked out LeBlanc. We have Sword, Glove, and Spatula, so getting like a rod wouldn't be so bad, a defensive item wouldn't be so bad, so we opt to go for the redemption here. Since we rolled a bit before, we decide not to level up to 8 here because we'd have like pretty much no gold to roll down with. But I opt to go for the defensive item here over the Hextech Gunblade, even though people love Hextech Gunblade, because we already have 3 offensive items. We had 1 defensive item, so you just want to always balance things out in TFT. And that's kind of how my logic works here. But we face off someone, another Lee Sin player. He's got 1 2-star Lee Sin and 1 1-star Lee Sin with 1, 2, 3, 4.5 tank items. So we obviously lose that one. Then we face this next player with high-end shopping, but he's level 7. So he actually only has a level 8 shop. He has 2-star Set, 2-star Aphelios, and I'm just like, holy cow, what is going on here? Because even though high-end shopping does allow for these boards sometimes, we all know that whenever you roll on 8, getting a 2-star legendary is actually pretty difficult. So I felt like kind of sad here, but you know, it is what it is. Off this dragon, we get a sword and then tier, sword, or rod. I opt to go for the rod to build a Hextech Gunblade. We level up here, and then we are going to definitely roll. I would have preferred defensive item, but you know, we don't get to choose. There's the Bel'Veth. I could drop her in, swap the Sure Shot emblem onto her. There's a Samira. Don't ask me why I forgot to buy extra Sennas. I thought I had an extra Sure Shot on my bench. Oh my god, I skipped Sivir there too. Okay, that's pretty bad. You definitely want to buy that Sivir or the extra Senna to sell this Senna, and then drop all the items onto your Samira. But we'll just Gunblade the Samira and call it a day from there. We face off against the Think Fast Lee Sin player. Probably going to lose this one. Luckily, he doesn't have full tank items on both his Lee Sins, and he doesn't have Urgot yet, so it is manageable to win the game still, but it's looking a little bleak. Also, we slammed Laser Core Crest, just because why not? It was like a dead item. We don't have an Urgot anyways. And yeah, we were able to kill. No, the Lee Sins are still alive. I thought one of them died. Okay, never mind. We end up taking, I think, a 4-unit loss, which honestly is not even that bad. We take a 3-unit loss, pretty good. 3 players get knocked out, so we're actually in a top 5 already. Pretty good considering 3 people have the Cleansing Safeguard augment. And we roll down a little bit. We get the Sedge 2, getting a 2-star upgrade in the front line. Very nice. We drop the Rage Blade on the Bel'Veth, but honestly, Bel'Veth 1 at this state in the game probably isn't going to do that much, especially without any durability. I probably should have put the Hextech Gunblade on the Bel'Veth if I had a chance to, and then put all the 3 damage items onto Sivir, because Bel'Veth makes more use of the healing than Samira does, because Samira's in the back line, so she doesn't get hit as much as Bel'Veth, who's like dashing around in the front. So we lose against the Lee Sin player. And oh yeah, so one Lee Sin player went 6. So I will put that out there. It is possible to bot 4 if you just have Lee Sin 1 the entire game, and if 3 players are taking the augment. We get an Alistar 2, which is good for Aegis, but without Aphelios, it's a little hard. We're facing off against Kai'Sa 3, Cho'Gath 3 right now, Zac 2. Zac's pretty difficult to deal with, especially when he has a Bramble Vest against our IE because it prevents crit damage from our spell. So I do believe we lose this one. Let's see by how much. Actually, no, there's a chance to win. It depends on how tanky our guy is. Nope. Okay, so we get hit there and we get a 4th. You know what? Honestly, not even that bad. Lee Sin ended up going 1, 2, and 6. That averages out to a 3, and then the Aphelios 2 player actually got 5th. So a 4th is very good here and a great way to start off our tournament. This second game starts off with 7 players going for this bow. We end up missing it, so we settle for a tier at the end of the day. We get Annie, Yasuo, and Lee Sin from the drops. Then we get a belt, and then I want to pick up this Talon and Nasus because I don't really think we have the best laser core start. We see a Jinx in our next shop, and I kind of regret not buying it because we have like some Anima units. And then in the augment phase, we get Anima Squad Crest, but I didn't pick it up, so we don't have like that great of an Anima start. Phony Frontline, we have a bunch of tank items, so probably don't need that. Three's Company is always decent to take because you could just use it to do full eco starts. I scouted around a bit, and then I take the Anima Squad Crest anyways, so a bunch of regrets there. This probably is not the best thing to take, by the way. It's actually pretty bad. You really need a lot of Anima Squad units to make it work, and in those cases, it's extremely good, but it's probably just Three's Company there. I wanted to get like some sort of non-econ augment because I had Sunfire Cape, but without any 2-stars, it seems kind of silly. We do end up selling to 10 here because we don't really care about any of these units. After losing the first 2 rounds, we get a random Talon 2, so I'm going to drop him in and put the Anima Squad Spatula on him. Since we have Sylas already, I just drop in a Camille for 3 Renegades, and I'm scouting around just to see what other people are playing. There seems to be one other Anima Squad player. Not good news for us, because you definitely do not want to play Anima Squad contested, especially at high levels. This brings back the important point about data. On the carousel, we pick up a Rod, because Rod's just really important in any MF comp. You could take the sword for Spear of Shojin, but Rod just builds much more items, and we don't have a win streak. Anima Squad is one of those traits that data is pretty fake with, because a lot of data websites, they default to showing Diamond Plus games for all their data. And that is useful in like 99% of cases, because Diamond Plus has the most amount of games, or has a lot of games at like a decent level. So you could get some pretty good insights from there. But pretty much every Anima Squad trait, every Anima Squad augment, they all do extremely well in the data. By that, I mean they average around like a 4.0. By the way, holy cow, the guy contesting us is Jinx 2, Sylas 2, Nasus 2 already. However, what I notice is whenever you raise the rank, Anima Squad becomes weaker and weaker. So at Diamond Plus, it averages a 4.0, but at Masters Plus, it starts averaging like a 4.25, and then at GM Plus, it averages a 4.5, which means as players get better and better, Anima Squad becomes worse. And it makes a lot of sense because Anima Squad is a stacking trait based on kills. However, during stage 2, a critical time to get a lot of your Anima stacks, because if you get stacks earlier, it's easier to get stacks in the middle and late game. And if you combine this with the fact that a lot of Anima Squad boards look pretty much the same at all levels, you just play 3 or 5 Anima, what ends up happening is that as players get better, they are better at their early game boards, and so therefore it's harder to kill more units in the early game, which means it's harder to get stacks in the early game as well. So The higher you go up with Anima Squad, the worse it gets, which is the opposite of the Lee Sin augment. So that's really interesting, and a lot of high-level players actually did not know this, even after the tournament. And I have to mention this because we actually learned this lesson the hard way of why Anima sucks, because everyone looks at Diamond Plus data, and I fell for the trap too. By the way, that first selection of augments suck. We already have Sunfire Cape, so Sunfire Board's dead. Cybernetic, not that great. Electrocharge, very average, so you might as well just re-roll it, and we're going to pick up the second win here. You could YOLO it with the Ancient Archives, but that's a little too YOLO. So last week, when we were playing in the first week of the Corrupted Cup, we played a couple games of Anima, and they did not go that well. And it turns out, I looked at the stats again, and I did the whole GM filter instead of Diamond Plus filter, and pretty much all the Jinx augments start sucking the higher you go. All the Anima Squad augments start sucking the higher you go. And that's where I really discovered that difference, because this doesn't happen that often where like a comp that's extremely good at lower levels becomes really mediocre at higher levels. Normally it just becomes like slightly worse, slightly better. Nothing that drastic though. But since we learned that in the first week, when I realized Anima actually was like highly mediocre, I used that knowledge to help me in this week, which is the second week, because I tried to only play the comp in good situations. Obviously, this game, probably not the best situation to play it in, and we're contested, so it's not that great. But you know what? Whatever. However, the other player who is better than me did not know this, and I even heard him in a stream later say, like, yeah, Anima's OP, and then he later discovered the same findings that I had. He was like, wait a minute, the stats actually aren't that good for it at higher levels. But he did not know this, and he ended up not placing that well in the tournament. And I'm not going to mention who it is because I'm not trying to flame anyone, and I actually respect the player a lot. But I guess it just goes to show that sometimes playing in the first week where you don't have the bye could potentially make you less prepared for the second week. By the way, on this carousel, something ridiculous happened. The person contesting us, Anima, he has a tier, Guardbreaker, and Jeweled Gauntlet on his Jinx, and he just gets in Misfortune with a sword off the carousel. I was so pissed. Like, just look at this. He literally just gets a free game because he got perfect item Misfortune for no reason. But that's the thing about data, though. Sometimes you have to dig a little deeper than the surface areas because there are exceptions to a lot of different things. And I don't really blame that other player because I made the same exact mistake. And literally everyone doesn't bother to filter for GM+, especially in the first week because there isn't that much data for it. So you're like, hey, it's low sample size. I don't really trust it that much. And that is a very valid point. Sample size does matter a lot in a game where data is kind of relied upon by some players. But yeah, we're just going to level up to 7 here, roll down a little bit, do like a soft roll down. I don't know what this Talia is doing. It's honestly not that great. I just got her for free and it didn't really cost me that much interest. But you know what? Just build it. You know, what's the worst that can happen with a hat Shojin 2-star Talia with Anima Squad spat? Like, honestly, what's the worst that can happen? We drop some other units in. We want to sell the Silas, drop the Sunfire on someone else. We have MF pair, so that's really good. Actually, drop the Vayne because we just need tanks right now. We are at 40 life, so we are bottom of the pack, but it's still okay healthy. It's nothing that horrible, but had we had a better Anima start, maybe we'd be in a better position, and that's, again, my mistake this game. I just should not have gone this comp. We're against a Bel'Veth 2. We have a Talia 2, which doesn't have Spellslinger, but it does have 5 Anima, which is pretty much just worse Spellslinger. It gives less AP, and it doesn't have like the Spellslinger effect, but you know what? I guess she has more health or something like that. But if you get it for free, you get it for free. Obviously, if that was an MF2, I'd be much happier. On this augment round, we get a couple of interesting selections. Jeweled Lotus is probably the best thing I could have gotten. Thank you, Mortdog, because we just don't have spell crit, so now we just get it for free. Combine that with the hat and the Shojin. I'm gonna just like roll a little bit more. I think I wanted like, yeah, either Zac 2 or the MF 2 because this just makes my team a lot better. Other things we could have hit were some of the pranksters. But now we got 7 Anima in. That's really good. Unfortunately, only an MF 1 and only Vayne 1, Jinx 1. So our backline's really weak, but our front line is incredibly strong. On this next carousel, we have an open spatula, so we definitely want to finish off that second Anima Squad spat. So we're hoping for a Rod. So if we do get that, because we are early pick, our game just completely snowballs into something really, really nice. This LeBlanc ends up like getting the Zonias, and I think she beats us here. Yeah, she barely scrapes by. We don't get the ace proc, and we take a loss there. 34 health, not where you want to be. We drop the next round too. We're at 24, and we're going to gun for this Rod right now. And thank God that we get it, because now we get 2 Anima Squad spats. We kind of lucked out this game. This comp becomes infinitely better whenever you do get spatulas. And this just happens to be one of those games where you're able to get it. So we sell the Zoe even though we kind of want her, but we needed her to pop off the spat, and then we could just drop in Alistair because he's already 2-starred. I also want to drop this Silas because we no longer need him anymore, so we could just sell him, buy Rel, put her in, or Poppy for Defender for Riven. I drop items on the Zac because he's probably going to be my main tank this game. Doesn't look like a Riven 3 type of game. And we also slammed Shroud earlier because we just needed to get value at stage 4-1. I forgot to mention that before, but MF1 still looking a little sketchy, but we have like very solid front lines. It's so weird. I feel like some of the games this tournament, we either had infinite front line, no back line, or infinite backline, no front line, which is just not where you want to be. This fight was also really unlucky because we barely miss out ace proc on like 3 units because of this unupgraded MF. 12 life now. I guess we just donkey it. I don't even know what we can hit. I guess just MF2. That's really about it. This Viego's probably not going to do that much. The Oxforce guy isn't going to do that much either. So just keep selling down and pray. But I guess Leona's better than Rel here. We get Aegis from that, and she's just a better unit. So we'll just drop her in for now. By the way, barely missing ace proc happened 2 fights in a row. I just didn't point it out. But when I was playing the actual game, I was so tilted and mentioning it the whole time. So essentially what it means is that we're at 12 health right now, right? Let's say we do get ace procs on like 3 different units, which we probably should have gotten. That's 12 health that we saved. So we should be at 24 health. But since we kill those units, we might even win those fights. So maybe we would even be at something like 30 or even 35 health, which is a big difference from the 12 we were at. But now we're at 4, so we're pretty screwed, but we do get this MF2, which I guess is okay. We get a Negatron Cloak, which actually isn't what we want because we want a 3rd item for MF. So we just actually build a Quicksilver Sash here. It's actually not bad on MF because with Jeweled Gauntlet, it gives her a bunch of crit. We will Donkey roll it down. Also, Vayne 2, Jinx 2, maybe a Zoe 2 or Echo 2. I mean, we can't afford all that, but you know, I am hoping. I'm a hopeful person. We get this Vayne. We face off against the other Anima squad guy who pretty much, I think, lucked out. Like, I mean, he has no tank items, but he has phony frontline. He has perfect item MF from the other time. He still gets Anima squad's crest on the final 4-2 augment. Oh, another thing is, remember how we had a bunch of copies of MF, but we couldn't hit MF2? Just imagine if we had 4-cost hero augment on 4-2, we would have just had MF2 for free pretty much. So this game was actually like a tilter while playing it, and this decision's a little hard. I think we sell Leona to buy the Zoe and the Jinx because Prankster's generally better than the random Aegis, especially if you don't need Leona's effect against something like a mech. Fortunately, we get good matchmaking RNG. This person's pretty weak. He's still the LeBlanc 2. He's pretty much the same team we saw last time, but he has like a Nunu 1, which honestly isn't that big of a power spike for anything. He's still Echo 1, so we should be able to make quick work of this round. By the way, my MF gets CC'd by the Nunu, even though she has Quicksilver. It is confirmed that little bump, it was supposed to just be a visual effect, but it is confirmed that it actually does CC, and apparently it goes through QSS, so interesting things to know. But we do pull off the win, so we're still alive for now, but the other Anima squad player who's contesting us is at 1 health, so we don't even get to improve our placements. But let's just donkey roll for now for Zoe 2. There's not really too much else to do. Maybe we get Echo or something. That's an improvement also. Samira player time. So this whole game, like, I did want to swap my MF and stuff, but I realized that with QSS, you don't need to swap. You could like stay into the Sejuani, so it's actually not bad to walk into her. Unfortunately, this game, we don't have any magic penetration shredding, so that Dragon Claw took like a little bit to get through, but we actually do win this round pretty handedly. This person's level 7, 10 gold, so it kind of makes a lot of sense. And then the other Anima squad contester gets sent 8th, so I guess I'm a little happy about that. I have noticed a pattern. By the way, it's just Shroud here. Not that we want it because we already have 1 Shroud. We just can't have someone else get it to Shroud us, especially since we have a Quicksilver build. Oh no, by the way, the other guy at 1 HP is Last Stand, so he's going to be really hard to beat or knock out for other players. But pretty much the whole point of Quicksilver is you go uninterrupted. Oh, and we face him. Yay! But the only way to slow down an MF with QSS is with the Shroud or with Cho'Gath. So you just have to deny the item, even though you would rather have like a tank item for like your Zac or something like that. But somehow we're able to not do that badly against this guy. Oh man, that Zac lived for so long, it feels like. His Samira and his Bel'Veth just kind of clean up, and he just kind of doesn't take any damage because he's Last Stand with scope weapons. However, this other player ends up taking a really big loss, so we actually get fifth, which I think is not bad in this situation, considering we're playing a bad comp that's contested without a good start. Oh yeah, the pattern I was talking about before is that whenever we are contested, I feel like we always send the other guy 8th in these past couple days, unless it's Samira, in which case we go 8th. Going into game number 3 though, we went 4th and 5th, which isn't ideal, but it's playable, you know? Some people had bonus points from the day before because they did really well. So we definitely still are behind the curve right now, which is not ideal, but again, it's still playable. So we probably need to average something like 4.2 to make it into the next stage, but you really just want a lot of points because on a final day of the tournament, you're not just trying to make it to the next round, you're trying to just win the whole thing. Our starting items are Chain, Rod, and Negatron, so we're probably just going to build an Ionic. We get a God Orb, we get Kai'Sa and Vayne, hell yeah. And we get Triforce right here. Here, I'm just like, we're about to win the game. I pretty much insta-picked the Triforce, and then I typed in chat. You can't see it because it's blocked by the overlay. I think they do it on purpose. I just said, me recon, because we just have such a good start for it, you know? There's just nothing much else to say. And Ionic's like a good item for it. It's not as good as Static Shiv, but it's still really good, you know? But we are facing off against another player. He is going to, oh, it's actually Void Sin, but he is going to barely beat us here. If our Kai'Sa and Vayne focus the same targets, I think we would have won, but they end up splitting damage, and then we get wrecked right there. Rammus in next shop, so I'm just like, hell yeah, sell that, put it on Rammus. This is just the dream Kai'Sa start game, minus like having Static Shiv or something like that. With the Chain Vest, we probably want to just build either a tank item, so it's going to be Sunfire Cape or like a Bramble Vest. So the whole debate between that is I think Sunfire Cape is better in the early game, Bramble Vest is better in the later game, because in the early game, you just snowball really hard with the anti-heal because the fights last a while. But I feel like in the late game, you just kill the front line so quick that you don't need the anti-heal. Second Vayne, so we'll put her in. Remember, we have Triforce, so getting as many 3-cost units in the game as possible is definitely like very ideal. This person's scaring me a little bit. He has the Vayne and the Ashe, so I'm like, please don't go for recons as well, because that would just really suck, you know? But we end up winning the round just because like Triforce with 4 3-cost units is just so good. Second pick, we want Bow. Don't get that, so we'll just settle for the Rod. I probably should have gotten the belt. I'm not really sure why I didn't. Maybe I used the argument of I already have 2.5 tank items. Let me get a damage item, because that logic does apply also. If we were 3 streaking, you definitely want to build a Sunfire Cape, but I feel like getting Sunfire or Bramble is still good with a 2 streak. But we win this round pretty easily. We face off against someone pretty strong in the last round, so I do believe the win streak gets wrecked. This person has Band of Thieves, which is good to kind of win streak with, and he's got a bunch of upgrades. I think 3 upgrades, so yeah, we have no upgrades. So it's perfectly fair that we get kind of knocked out here. So moving on into the next stage, we get a Rod and a Glove and a Chain. It's a Bramble for sure. The other item I'm not too sure about though. Maybe you could do the Jeweled Gauntlet, maybe you could do the Hat. I'm leaning more towards Hat, but Jeweled Gauntlet is nice because you could drop to 3 recon. You don't have to run Ashe anymore. However, like, I feel like having 4 recon with the dead Ashe with 3 real damage items is just much better, but I probably should have just slammed the Hat here at least. Here we get interesting augments. I'm pretty sure it's just Trade Sector since we're rerolling, so I should just take that here. We level up to 6, use our roll, and we get nothing. I guess you could play the Rel 2 temporarily, but I do want to roll down a bit because we are on a Vayne pair, and gold isn't as important when you have Trade Sector because it kind of like does the gold for you, right? You get 2 free gold every round. But not hitting. So I probably should have stopped at 20, but I got a little too excited. So we are facing off against Cybernetic and Sunfire Board. So we should be fine against this. We have a lot of upfront damage because we have like 4 damage units and 2 tanks. So hopefully we could clean up. Even though our tanks die really quickly, we have a lot of single targets, so they should clean up at least like some units, right? So we get that by and then barely miss out on that Kale, but if we slammed Hat, we would have saved life there. Do we get anything from Trade Sector this time? We're just going to buy stuff in our shop. We do get the 4 recon. That's pretty good. Really big upgrade there. Do 1 roll. Nope, no Vayne 2 yet. Somehow win the next round. Then we go for the sword. It gets taken. We have to settle for the tier for Hand of Justice because there's really not much else you could build here. Am I really not slamming the Hat yet? Like, what am I waiting for? Like, Rageblade I don't even think is that great of an item in this build, so I have no idea what I was waiting for. I could have had Hat for 5 rounds. Like, Jesus. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing, guys. I'm trying to think of other items I could possibly build. Like Gunblade, I think is overrated. Rageblade, I think is overrated. Hat isn't that great, but it's not that bad, compared to the other items I mentioned. Believe it or not. But yeah, because we don't have a Shiv, right? So without a Shiv, why do we need Rageblade? And then we already have Hand of Justice, so why not build the hat? Also, I think Hextech Gunblade is like the most overrated item of this patch. We get Ash 2, and then we roll again. We do get the Vayne 2. But yeah, obviously I still like Gunblade. But this is again when the data is deceiving. It's not wrong, it's just deceptive if you don't actually know what's going on behind the scenes. Let's do this roll down first, then I'll explain. We go to 7, let's roll down. We're just looking for Kaisa 2, Rammus 2, Cho'Gath 2, maybe a Zac 1 or something like that. We get a lot of Vaynes. I end up making a mistake here. I buy a lot of Vaynes. I probably just shouldn't because we're going for Kaisa carry and you just don't need Vayne in that case. But I should keep rolling here because we're pretty far off. I should roll down to like 10, but I'm too slow. But essentially what I mean with the data being like fake or whatever is because the reason why Gunblade's good is not because it's a best in slot item for Samira. It's not best in slot for Aphelios. It's not best in slot for Kaisa. It's not best in slot for anyone. But you may have noticed a pattern based on what I said already. It's usable in so many comps. It's used in AP and AD comps, and it's just like a pretty good item, But pretty good is not best in slot. But if you look at the data, you'll see that it performs the best. So why wouldn't it be best in slot? Well, because people flex into a comp, you would only flex into it if you had a lot of those units. So let's say you built a Gunblade on stage 2-1, you get a Kaisa 2 for free. Yeah, you're going to play Kaisa and that item's usable on her. If you're forcing Kaisa and you slam a Shiv Rageblade on 2-1, but you only have one copy of Kaisa, like that's not as good of a Kaisa start, at least in terms of the units that you have. Obviously for items it's a lot better, but for units it's not that great. We make a mistake. We build this Vayne too. I shouldn't have, as I mentioned before. But again, that's like another time where it's like data is very deceiving because you look at the stats and you're like, wow, Hextech Gunblade's performing so well on like so many different carries, but you don't understand why it's performing so well. Luckily, we get the Kaisa 2 down there. I probably should have stopped rolling. Actually, no. I wanted to get a 2-star tank. But big mistake here. I should just sell this Vayne because I'm just never going for Vayne 3 because I have 0 items for her, so there's just no point. And I don't even have an item on my bench for her. I guess I have the confidence to say this, at least with the Kaisa comp, because I have so much experience on it. But if I were to handpick Kaisa's items, I would not pick Gunblade ever. Like, we saw those spread shot Vayne games yesterday, and what were the best items on Vayne? Like, did the Gunblade actually help us at all? No, because she kills everything in 2 seconds, so you just want pure damage on her. Same thing with Kaisa, you want to prioritize stuff like Shiv. Obviously, this game we can't because we have an Ionic Spark already, but something like Shiv complemented with a Rageblade QSS, or even building like an RFC on her is pretty good. I've talked about RFC in the past before, and again, I still think it's a really good Kaisa item, even though in the data it may not seem so. Attack speed's just her best stat, and getting upfront attack speed allows her to stack her attack speed from her ability like that much earlier, so that's why you kind of like it. We're going to finish the defensive item on Rammus here, so we'll grab the belt. I'm going to use Vayne as another example. Deathblade is Vayne's best item, but no one builds it because you could use the swords for so many other items, so you end up running out of room for it. For example, on Vayne, people are building Shojin and Gunblade, so then you just don't have enough swords for Deathblade, so it ends up never getting built, so it's not going to show up that often, but it's just her best item. Like, attack damage is her best stat, and Deathblade gives a lot of attack damage. I don't know what else to say. Back to the game, we're getting rocked because we don't have any 2-star tanks until now. Nyla, I don't really count. Rammus, we finally get. This is a completely tragic Kaisa game. Like, I have not seen a more tragic one in a while because we got Rammus 2 at stage 4-6. We got Kaisa 2 at stage like 4-1 or 4-2. And then the big mistake again is holding on to this Vayne. It costed me probably like 5 to 10 gold by just holding on to her. I honestly don't know how I made this mistake because I often yell at my friends who do this. Because without spread shot, I just absolutely hate Vayne. Also, these items are a little troll. I guess we build like Archangels on Kaisa. But I just want to imagine how different this game would have been if we slammed Hat on stage 3-1 because it was just clearly the slam there because Hat is a really good item on Kaisa because she likes AP. Yeah, this Vayne, I'm not even going to complete. I don't even know why I'm buying her. 0 items on her. I should just sell and just go for this Kaisa. And I'm going to try to do that now. We are at 16 life. It's a little sketchy. We're facing off against 2 Bel'Veth 2s. Holy cow. Did not even realize that until now. Very good items too. He's got One healing augment, second wind, and then he's got triple damage on his Bel'Veth. But does that Bel'Veth even need healing? I would assume she needs a little bit, but not against me because my team's so weak. We end up taking pretty big loss. We're at 2 health now, but we are still alive. And someone else goes 8th, so thank God. God bless. Let's roll it down. We do hit the Kai'Sa 3. Is it too little, too late? Probably. Ah, man, I'm going to bring it up again. I just wish we had on her. It's just such a better item in this specific situation. Because we already have the Ionic, Rageblade without a Shiv is just like so useless. Not useless, it's just like not that great. But like that Vi, if we had Hat, she'd be one tapped, you know, because we just have the flat AP to kill her. You don't really need the attack speed to like do more attacks against it. But against this guy, we are barely able to make the win. Are we? Okay, yes, we are. So we're still in it. Maybe this other guy dies, so we get a 6. Nope. 5 health. But this game also definitely suffers from unluckiness because we just don't really hit our tank units at all. A misconception about Kai'Sa is that Kai'Sa is the most important, but it's actually your front line that is. Let's do some in-game audio because it's funny with the scouting. Not even going to position against that guy. Let him hook me. I did say let him hook, but not this way. Okay, maybe she's out of range. Okay, she's out of range. It was actually good. She heals herself, so it's actually fine, as long as she doesn't die. Wait, my whole team got melted. Really unfortunate game. I mean, we didn't hit the 2-star tanks in stage 3 and 4. Like, well, we can't do anything about that. He has 3-star LeBlanc with 50 gold, with Duplicator on his bench, and he's level 8. Like, holy cow. I mean, I literally had, like, almost perfect recon start. But yeah, this game sucks. We took a 7th. This is a standings right now. We have 2 games left, so we have 11 points. We need to get around like 24 or 23 to make it to the next round. As I said before, we want to do more than that. So as we go into game 4, we get a tier. There are 3 tiers on the starting carousel, so it's going to be like one of those types of games. We get a blue buff drop and also double Gangplank. Maybe it's a Flaming Ricochet game. Probably one of the best augments on the patch. Foster Growth, Edgelord, Rock Solid, not really feeling any of those. Get Paid, I could take that because it would give us GP2, but we don't have other upgrades. Don't really have the Anima squads. We're looking for something that could abuse the blue buff, and we finally found something bigger, better Buckler. Gonna grab that because we could just do reroll Lulu plus Poppy. It's not the best, it's not the worst. We also have 1 copy of Poppy. I feel like this comp, you don't need that many copies of Poppy to pull it off. Whereas the Renekton one we saw from the other game that one of our opponents played, I feel like that one you should have a couple of copies. But they're both really good augments if you get the good starts with them. Obviously, I just feel like Poppy's a little less reliant on it. Ideally, we win this round and then we can make 10, so that's really nice. We lost a round. We're scouting around. There's 1 Renekton, 1 Lux carry, 1 Lee Sin carry, Lulu support, Poppy support, Gangplank support, and a Jinx. So we're not going to be that contested. We're the only bigger, better Buckler. The other Poppy player has the support one, which gives like a shield to his whole team. The one I have is obviously better, but he probably just had no other choice. I actually think the other Poppy augment is really good. It's just, it doesn't fit in a lot of teams, so you end up having to run a Poppy, which isn't ideal in a lot of cases, especially if it's not like carrying or anything. But we end up losing these 2 rounds, which is fine. We want to finish our rod item, so we'll just get the Gunblade here, especially since Lulu's on the 2nd row. Can be on the 2nd row, I should say. It makes the Gunblade a little more valuable. You may have noticed already, we are not picking up the Poppy orb because 2 Poppies is better than a 1 2-star Poppy, especially since we're trying to make interest threshold anyway, so we can't put in an extra unit. So that's why I don't pick up the orb in case you guys are wondering. So whenever you upgrade a unit from 1-star to 2-star or 2-star to 3-star, they generally improve by 1.8 times. So if you have 2 units in, that should be better than a 1.8. Add on the interest on top of that, it seems like a no-brainer to me. We get an Annie, so we'll sell the GP, drop in the Gadgetines, and hopefully we could 4-loss this. Unfortunately, we face someone with like mainly just 1-star units. It's a Lux reroller, so they're kind of in a very similar spot to us. Fortunately, I think we narrowly lose this one. So a 4 streak into neutrals is pretty good. Obviously, you prefer 5, but you can't choose that. Since I don't want to lose to Krugs, we're going to pick up the Poppy and play 4 units. We get a rod and a sword and a cloak, so that's pretty good items right there. We could build an Ionic Spark, and we get the 2 poppies. You want to roll down to around 30 generally when you reroll nowadays, and we have 6 poppies when we had 50 gold plus, so that is a very, very good sign. We still need Lulu as well. We kind of learned that from last week also. Remember that one bigger, better buckler game where we had 3-star poppy but only a 2-star Lulu and no secondary carry? I believe we won 6 that game, and then the next game we had the augment. We had 3-star Poppy, 3-star Lulu. We won that game. So it just goes to show you how necessary having a secondary carry is. Obviously, like, you can't control it all the time, but if you can help it, then it's a pretty good thing to have. So featherweights, Ancient Archives, Second Wind. It has to be featherweights, right? If you're going Lulu and Poppy carry, I get it. Attack speed isn't the best stat, but it has to be takeable, right? If it's not, it's just the worst augment. So unlucky for us, this player, he has the support Lulu augment, but he's rerolling the comp anyways, which to me doesn't make sense. If you have the Lulu carry augment, I understand rerolling it, but I really thought we'd be uncontested this game, but we just get contested anyways. It's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world. We're actually going to reforge going into the carousel round. We just never really need this sword that was on our bench before. We get a chain vest. That's probably one of the better things you could get. But we take a loss there. It's okay because we're on a loss streak, so we could get a lot of gold. We just do one roll. We get the Wukong 2, so we'll just take that. We do scout to see how much AP versus AD there is, and one guy has Lux 3 already, but it's mainly AP, so we're not going to go for Defender. So how does that affect our decision making? Well, we probably don't want both Rel and Wukong 3, so we'll just decide on having one of them. We face the Lee Sin player, and we have a really good matchup into Lee Sin. The reason why is because Poppy kills the backline, and we don't need to kill the Lee Sin. So we could kill his whole team before we eventually kill the Lee Sins. Obviously, right now, he's still stronger than us because we have Poppy 2 and Lulu 2. But later in the game, we definitely want to face him a bunch. So we have a Chain Vest. First pick, let's just get a Bramble Vest. Not too much to analyze here. We get a bunch of Rels here. I guess we could play it temporarily. I think I opted not to, just because the same reason before, we only need to commit to one of them, the Wukong or the Rels, and it's just higher chance we hit Wukong because we're on level 5 rolling. Bunch of Lulus pop up in our shop, and here's where I'm like, we're 2 off Lulu, we're 3 off Poppy. By the way, we had the same amount of Poppies on 3-1 as we did now, so it's a little unlucky. So I'm like, let me roll down a little more and sell these Zoes because I don't think we're going 5 Gadgettine. Also, because of featherweights, we probably want the Annie over the Zoe anyways because it's going to be really hard to get Nunu this game. We have to get it off a carousel or something like that. But we're facing another reroller. This one is the Jinx carry augment. But lucky for us, only Silas 3, no Jinx 3. So we are able to win this one here. And that ends our lose streak, which is pretty good because we could go into the Wolf camp, hopefully start winning everything from here after we hit. We win the next round, and then we get another Lulu. So we're just going to roll down to 50 again. Yuumi is okay. I guess you could play it. It's not the most important thing. You really just want the 3 Gadgettines and then like Wukong 3 and then literally anything else. We get Belt and Cloak, not the best because it doesn't slam into anything. I guess Sona would be the best complementary unit. She gives us both Heart and Spellslinger, so definitely well worth it. And we're going to roll down a bunch right now because we are 1 off Wukong, 2 off Poppy, and now we're 1 off Annie. We were 2 off Annie before. Unfortunately, we don't hit the Poppy, which is the most important one. So I dig a little deep. I think it's fine to roll down to 30, but after we hit this other Annie, I think it's time to chill. We face a Lux guy, and for some reason, he only has 1 item on his Lux. Maybe he just got unlucky, but we played 1 item Lux or 2 item Lux the other time we had Lux reroll, and it was god-awful. You really just need 3 items on her, and we just make quick work of that team. Oh, some of you guys may be wondering, is Poppy good against AP lobbies? The answer is, surprisingly, yes. The reason why is because all the AD comps, they have Last Whisper, and it's just Battle Mage here because we're in the second row anyways, but with Last Whisper, it reduces her armor, and magic comps don't have that. So oftentimes against AP comps, if you have 3-star Poppy plus a Bramble, you can just one-tap their backline. So it depends on positioning. That's why you always want to scout, put Poppy on the left side, put her on the right side, just to try to hit their carry, because sometimes you do just one-tap them. And if you 2-tap them, like, great, sometimes that's enough also. Really depends on how tanky they are. For example, Anima Squad, they get bonus health, so sometimes you can't kill Misfortune. But if you're against like a Talia or something like that, you could just bop her and you're just good after that. But yeah, we beat this Renekton reroller. That's really good. For some reason, in a couple of these fights, I forget to use my Shroud. I don't really know why or how. I just leave it on my bench from the thing. But this last item, what do we want from it? Probably like a Dragon Claw on Poppy. That'd be really good because, again, a lot of AP comps. We could go for maybe a Sunfire Cape. That's possible too. We could do maybe like a Guard Breaker or something. A couple of different options there, but we still win the round despite forgetting to use our Gadgettine item, but you definitely should remember to use those every single fight. We actually reviewed on stream because someone called me out for it. There were 2 fights where I forgot to use the Shroud. Actually, there are 3 fights, but one of them was during Stage 2, and I purposely wanted to lose that round. But I believe one time during Stage 3, I forgot to use the Shroud, and one time during Stage 4, the game you just saw, we forgot to use it. So maybe that affects the outcome of the game. Maybe it doesn't. I'm not really too sure. But we're facing the Jinx guy. He's pretty weak because he is hard stuck Jinx 2 with like not that many copies of it at this stage in the game at least. But I guess we don't have Poppy 3 either, but our Lulu's kind of cranking it right now. Annie's cranking it. Actually, is Annie doing anything? I just realized, even though she's 3-star, it's not like I have supers. She has no items, pretty much no traits because you don't really count Gadgettine, right? She has no items on her. But we're going to roll down for the Poppy right now. We are 1 off, and we finally get it. Just going to grab it right there. Probably just play double Sona. I think buying the Yumis was actually a mistake because if I get 3-star Yumi, who really cares? Without items, I don't think she actually does that much. I guess I could play her with Alistar, do like 4 heart, Ox Force plus Mascot or something like that. But you don't really need to do that, I'll be honest with you guys. You could literally play anything instead. So I think I should sell her for interest, at least sell one of them, because I'm not going to roll anymore at low levels. I'm just going to try to power level up and play as many units as I can. This Bel'Veth gets stuck on our Poppy. That's really lucky for us because, well, you just can't kill a Poppy that easily, you know? And then Lulu slowly kills his whole team. So really good spot we're in. We win all the rounds in Stage 4, which is super crucial in TFT. On this next shop, we don't really see anything, but we do get cursed with a double bow. And I'm just like crying at this point internally because it's just like, what am I supposed to do with double bow on this comp? I guess Nunu can build an RFC. I really don't know. I guess we could Sunfire Cape here. There's really not much else we could build. Someone was saying maybe you Titans plus ZZ-Rot, but ZZ-Rot's really not good in this comp because you typically put ZZ-Rot on tanks that suck. So 1-star tanks, 2-star 3-cost tanks or something like that, 2-star 2-cost tanks. But we have 3-star tanks, so you don't want to put something like a ZZ-Rot on them because it doesn't actually help them out. ZZ-Rot's kind of like a additive bonus, and tank items are like multiplicative in a way. So you want stuff like Bramble Vest on a strong unit, right? Because they have a lot of health, you give them a lot of armor. You want stuff like Dragon Claw for the same reasons, but it gives magic resistance and regeneration. But a ZZ-Rot, it doesn't make your tank stronger. It just adds another tank, which is why it's typically useful on bad units. Not bad units, but like not tanky units. All in all, I'd rather have 1 good tank item and 1 bad RFC than 2 bad tank items. So on this carousel, we probably just want the Shojin for our Sona. Don't get that. I guess it's an Archangels then. There's not really too much else to take here. After that, we want to level up to 8. So we reached 8 at stage 5-5. That's actually not bad timing. We want this Sona too. We roll down a bit. Maybe add in an extra unit. We don't really care that much though. I guess we could have played Alistar, but it's really not that great because we don't really care about Annie. Normally you want to play the Ox Force when you play AP comps, but that's because Annie's kind of your main tank in those situations, but she's kind of our secondary right now. We're off against the Lux player again. I feel so bad because like we spread out so much, so it's hard for Lux to get good hits on us. But for some reason, Taliyah one-taps us. I don't know how, but our Lulu just died to the Taliyah. So we actually end up losing this fight, which is really funny because I just have no idea how Lulu actually died to that. Actually, I stand corrected. Both their ults actually hit at the same exact time. So Lux and Taliyah both dealt damage. It just looked like it was only Taliyah. We faced a Lee Sin guy. Let's see this matchup now, because like I'm telling you guys, even though he only has 1 2-star Lee Sin, like this matchup's so easy because Lulu's high single target damage for the front line, like we killed his stronger Lee Sin, and then Poppy is able to just kill random units in the back as well. For some reason, Wukong walked to his backline, so I guess that helps too. But I really wish we faced this guy on repeat. You know how sometimes you face someone every single round or every single stage, and if that happened against this guy, I think we would have won the game, but it ended up not being so. We're 16 life, but we are in the top 5 right now. I elect to wait to pop the item first just to see what I hit and see what opponents I'm facing. We're going to do a roll down. We want this Rocket 2, I guess. Maybe LeBlanc 2. There's not really too much to roll for. We have 4 heart already. I guess Syndra would be really nice, but that's asking for a lot, you know? But we do end up getting it. So for some reason, I buy this LeBlanc. I don't know why. I should have bought Syndra, replaced the Yuumi, and called it a day. What do we want here? Maybe I end up taking Edge of Night. I don't actually think the item matters here, because I was thinking this Soraka's jump into the back, and then maybe the Edge of Night kind of saves us a hit. What ends up happening is that there's a glitch where you could kill the Hackerim, and you may have noticed it in a previous fight, because we did it before too, and that's why his Soraka stopped mid-flight instead of going all the way to the back line. I don't know if that actually costed us or something, but it definitely is a really goofy interaction to say the least. But we do end up losing this fight, and with that, we are at 1 HP. Good news is that we are top 4. We're facing... what is this guy playing? He has Lee Sin Augment, but I think it's the other Lee Sin Augment, where it's like the support one. But he's playing Bel'Veth, and this Bel'Veth just is able to kill our Poppy, and we end up losing this game. So that really does suck. This was also the player that was also at 1 life. So it's unlucky that someone else didn't face him and beat him, because I feel like if we faced the Lee Sin guy, the carry Lee Sin Augment guy, we would just win, and we probably would have gotten a 3rd here. But, you know, 4th is okay. We're still kind of in it. Looking at the standings, we are at 16 points, and you need around like 23, 24 to make it in. So we definitely need like a 1st or a 2nd. I guess the last game was pretty important then, like the one we just played. But this game we get a decent Anma squad start, and because we're pretty much 1st or 8th, I'm pretty much like, screw it, let me just play Anma squad, because it is the bunny comp of the bunny trait of the set, and we just kind of have to do it. Underground Heart would have been great for 1st or 8th in here. Unfortunately, we have no undergrounds in our unit selection, so we can't really take that. I would have taken it because it is do or die right now. We need another 1st, just like the previous days, or like the 1st day, I believe. So we're just going to reroll. Don't really get anything that great, so I just go for Metabolic. Ace, I guess, is another way to 1st or 8th it. So I guess maybe I should have taken that. But we get a great Anma opener. We get no 2 stars, but we at least get the units. So maybe not now, but maybe 1 or 2 rounds from now, we could start getting good stacks. We lose this 1st round to a Sure Shot Crest guy, and we do get 1 stack though, so it's not the end of the world. Scouting around, doesn't seem like we're contested. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Since we had a lot of Anima units, we end up getting one of them 2 stars, so that's really nice. Gonna hopefully allow us to start stacking. If I had something good to put in, I would level up, but thank God we did not, because we're facing a level 5 Prankster emblem person, and Prankster is just so good early because it gives you the extra target dummy, and target dummies are better in the early game than they are in the late. Think about it, if you have a 5v4, it's better to have that than like a 9v8, for example. Unfortunately, we're not able to make interest in either of those rounds, so we probably should have just leveled up before. It's a tough call. I don't actually know what the right decision is there. We see this other person. It seems like he's going Anima, but like in the chat, people are asking like who's going Recon. And with Threes companies, sometimes people do that, and we definitely saw each other. Like he probably thinks I'm going Anima because that's the only thing on my bench. But we end up contesting each other. Like I get it, he has 2 veins. But I really thought he was a Recon player because people were kind of discussing Recons in chat. Obviously, you can't see it because it's blocked by the overlay, so it's kind of just like a trust me, bro, you know? We get a sword here, and now I'm checking the standings. The yellow people are the ones on the cusp. You need top 16 to make it to the next round, and we are definitely at the bottom of that yellow area, meaning we need to score really, really high. We slammed the Shojin because like that's MF's best item. Another good item to take on that carousel would have been the Ionic Spark. Oh, never mind on the leveling up thing I talked about earlier. The reason why we didn't level up is because we have Metabolic Accelerator. I forgot about that. So pretty much you want to just like lose streak and get a lot of gold that way. We're facing off against a Last Whisper Sivir with Ascension, so there's no way we beat this, but we do end up getting like, I think 1 stack this fight, so not the best, not the worst though. We get a 5 loss streak, which is perfect, and then we get a bunch of defensive items, which makes it a little weird. Not going to deny that. The final item we get is going to be a tier, so that one's usable. We could build a Hand of Justice with that, or worst case, Ice Cream Cone or Protector's Vow, but we're going to level up here, just drop in an extra unit. I go ahead and slam the D-Claw. It's not because there's a lot of AP in our lobby or anything. It's just there's just not much else to build with 2 cloaks. Am I really going to build like a stone plate plus ice cream cone or something like that, or maybe a QSS? It doesn't sound that great. We built QSS on the MF the other game because we had the Jeweled Gauntlet or Jeweled Lotus. So the crit actually does stuff. But without Jeweled Gauntlet or Jeweled Lotus, the crit doesn't really do that much from the QSS. So we end up taking a loss here. And yeah, even with the declaw, we probably should have slammed the Hand of Justice. But I think we were playing a little greedy this game. So you may have noticed like Reverb or Spread Shot. Those are really the only 2 options. Spread Shot's OP, especially with the Shojin already. And that was probably like the fastest I picked an augment this entire tournament because I was just like, holy cow, thank God. And we even get an MF on the roll down. The Zac could be useful as well. Rolling down a little more, Kai'Sa's useful if we get to like 3 or 4 recon, but it doesn't really look like that. We could pivot into recons, and I definitely was looking for that, but there was another recon player, as you see the Kai'Sa 2-star at the very top in first place. So obviously we're going to scout it. Yeah, like 2-star Kai'Sa, he's pretty committed. There's a Jax player. There's another Spread Shot Vayne player, which is a little unfortunate, but we kind of knew he was going to go for it, but I thought he was going to do the recon version. He ends up doing the, what's it called? The MF version, or like the Anima Squad version, which like they're both fine, but recons are a little better. It kind of depends on what type of spot he was in. But we're facing off against the Jax guy. He's got Riven 2 already. That's really unlucky. A lot of people are going to be playing Rivens this game. I don't think Riven 3 is kind of in the cards. But, you know, like what can we do from this situation? Not that much. We kind of just have to take it. So we do get hit pretty hard here, and we are going to be at 56 life now. We see an Ezreal, so we have the opportunity to play 4 or 3 recon. This may have been a mistake in hindsight because I forgot I don't have the spell crit yet. So I should have just kept in 5 Anima for now and just collect interest. So that's definitely like a mistake this round, I'm pretty sure. I put the tank items on Zac just because I could always sell them later to put on Riven if I need to, or if I magically get Zac 2-star, him with items is more than sufficient. But we do end up losing this round, so we don't get any interest. So I think I lose an interest because of that mistake there. We do have a Chain Vest. However, I want sword items for my Vayne. Remember how I said Deathblade's her best item? So by picking the sword, I'm sacrificing my stage 3 in order to buff up my stage 4, because if we end up not losing any rounds in stage 4, that's always the most crucial stage in TFT. Combine that with the fact that we have Metabolic Accelerator, it means we're likely not just going to die out randomly in stage 3, because I have seen that before. People lose so much health in stage 3 that sometimes they die at 3-6 or even like 4-1 after taking like a lot of big losses. But yeah, unfortunate we don't have the Vayne 2. The other person hits Vayne 2 before us. I believe he hits everything before us this game. Spoiler alert. But, you know, that's not in our control. All we can control is what we do in our games, and right now, that probably should be selling the Ezreals, even though I was trying to pivot out into the recon build. However, since I sold the other Kai'Sa for interest earlier, there's just like no reason to hold on to the Ezreal. So I really don't know why I did that. We're facing the Kai'Sa guy now, Speak of the Devil. His team's pretty weak. Stronger than mine maybe, but yeah, he doesn't really have any 2-stars. We both kind of don't have any. I have Sylas, Nasus, and Jinx. He has Kai'Sa and Poppy. Obviously, Kai'Sa is pretty crucial to his comp, so he should beat us here, so it kind of makes me regret losing the previous round, and then we barely missed like a triple stacker right there. Off Wolfcamp, we get a duplicator, some gold, and a chain, so we could build the Bramble Vest here, but I really wanted that sword item, but it's not in the cards sometimes. But we get the MF there, we get a bunch of Jinxes, we want Vayne 2, and we finally get it. There's another Zac. So you could use a duplicator here, nothing wrong with that, but since we have Zac pair, we have an Echo and MF pair, I don't want to use it quite yet. I think I actually should have rolled down to 10 here, hit either MF or Zac, and then Neeko the other, and then we would have been in a very nice spot. But I don't do it. I don't know if I didn't have time or something, or if like I just didn't think of the play, because it's like hard to do these on the fly, right? But I think looking back at it, that's definitely what you should do, because the earlier you use the champion duplicator, the more value you get out of it. But at the same time, you don't want to use it too early, because like sometimes you just need to continue rolling. We get the Jeweled Lotus again, which is incredibly big because, I mean, you just want this Vayne to crit. That's the whole point of doing the recon build. So essentially, we just get a huge damage spike, which is obviously really good. The guy contesting us, he's got Riven 2. So I think he's like on paper, I'd rather be in his position. What's the life total looking like? Actually, he has less life than us. I guess it depends who wins this round. That would be the person in the better position. We are missing Duelist. I feel like I should have been playing Duelist. I want Nyla normally. This person's running Fiora for Duelist. I think both are equally good options. I don't know why he's building Last Whisper. Remember last game when we were contested Spread Shot as well? Not like last game, but the previous game we had Spread Shot. People built Last Whisper also, and I pointed out how it's like not that great on her, but apparently people think so. We hit an MF here, but yeah, like I checked the replay just now. The person contesting us consciously made the decision to build Last Whisper, which would make sense if he's going for Samira, but he's clearly just going Anima Squad, so I don't really know why he did that because it really sucks in like Vayne builds. Maybe he just wanted to pivot and then he's like, you know what? I got Spread Shot anyways. I'll just make the best of a bad situation. Not bad, but like best of a suboptimal situation. Because obviously getting Spread Shot, no matter what spot you're in, it's going to be really good. It's like just such a good AUG. I get it. We lost this round, but he has a Samira too. Like, come on. On this carousel, we definitely want that sword. I end up not going for it though. I definitely had the chance to. Instead, I go for a Shojin on my MF, but that's a big mistake. My logic in the game was, hey, we have an MF2. Whenever I play Anima, with Jeweled Lotus especially, how could Shojin not be good on MF? But the thing is, just watch these fights and let me know your thoughts. Also, we hit the Zac too, which means we could Nico our Echo, but I'm thinking maybe we could save it for a Vayne 3 or Riven 3, or even a 2-star Legendary, because there's nothing that could beat us right now. Okay, watch this fight. Watch Vayne and watch MF. So, I'm looking at the timer right now. This fight ends within like 20 seconds or something like that. Obviously, it's still going on now, but this is Bel'Veth 2. He's got Rammus, the Augment. He's got Nunu and a Sejuani. But like, did MF really contribute that much? Like, you look at the damage chart, it's just all Vayne. If I have Deathblade on her, I feel like the fight would not have been close. I was also regretting not Nicoing the Echo because we did take a loss. I just didn't see how it was possible that we lose any of these fights with this team right now because I feel like we're pretty stacked. Normally with Anima Squad, you cap out because you have like Anima Squad Spatula, so you could drop Nasus or Sylas and things like that. But with the Zac too, he's honestly just like one of the tankiest units in the game. MF2 was Shojin, Vayne was Shojin, Spread Shot, Jeweled Lotus. Like, I didn't really see how we could have lost, but maybe the metabolic accelerator is causing us to lose some games because it means we have like an Econ Augment instead of a Combat one. We get a Giant Slayer here for Vayne. It's for sure not Hextech Gunblade because we already have healing and we just want more damage. But we'll roll a little bit here. We need an extra unit to put in for that 8th slot. We finally get a Riven. It took a while for us to get, so it's like he hit the Riven, we hit the MF. I guess it's like differences in the game, right? We finally get Nyla. Nyla Duelist is definitely going to help out a lot. I think she's the best one to put in. But we roll down, don't really hit any of the good legendaries. And luckily we get Nyla, and then we miss the Nico on our Echo, which is a little unfortunate. But yeah, after you do a big roll down, you probably should just use your Nico because like what else are you rolling down for? Especially when you're only trying to hit one more unit, which was exactly the case here. We had Nyla 2. I guess we're missing Riven, but Riven's not that important right now because we have Zac as our main tank. And yeah, like this fight against a Brawler player, like it ended pretty quickly because we have Giant Slayer. You just look at the damage charts and MF, even though I get it, she only has one item, but she's getting out DPS by Zac. I'm pretty much like the biggest MF supporter just because it's like the bunny trait or whatever, and she's the main carry of it, right? But even now, I'm just like really regretting not making that Deathblade before, like so much. What's happening in this game, though? Oh, we're facing the guy that contested us. And he has MF2 as well, so we pretty much have same team. The only difference is I think it's the Last Whisper. The only other comparison is maybe like the Zac versus the Fiddlesticks. But we send him 8th, so that's pretty good. But yeah, I don't know what it is. Like, whenever we get contested for non-Samira comps, we always send that other person 8th. But when we play Samira and we contest it, we get 8th. I don't know why, I don't know how, but I guess that's just how life works sometimes. This Zac is so tanky. Like his Zac, he's got Warmog's Bramble and Redemption. That's like probably the best items you could get on him. But we also get CC'd here, not ideal, but we end up cleaning up anyways because, yeah, this is just disgusting. But luckily, we could hopefully get Vayne 3 this time. I kind of regret Nicoing the Echo, but I felt a little desperate before. But perhaps since the other guy died out, there's a chance to get the iconic Vayne 3. So we just go double Shojin here, but the item gets taken, unlucky. Static Shiv's the only other option, really. Maybe we could have Ice Cream Cones. Maybe we could have handed Justice the MF. It's pretty much always an MF item. So against this guy, I purposely put my Vayne in target of his Taliyah. The reason why is because Vayne has a healing item in the Hand of Justice. My Misfortune does not. So I figure if someone's going to get hit by the Taliyah, it's better the Vayne than the Misfortune because Misfortune can't heal up. Unfortunately, we just lose the fight anyways. At this point, depending on how the points shape up, maybe a second can qualify us to the next round. Like, you really want the first. I don't know if the first guarantees it or not, at the time at least. But yeah, there was a chance a second's good enough. So maybe we didn't need the entire like Vayne 3 to just win out the lobby. Of course, we can't control our rolls either because you look at our bench, we have no Vaynes. I'm not just going to roll down to 0 right now and just pray we hit 6 copies of Vayne and 50 gold. It's very unlikely, so the only other option we have here is to level up to 9. We get a second Spear of Shojin, that's pretty good on MF. Perhaps here we make a mistake, though. We level up maybe one turn too early. We do end up putting in a Sejuani. We face the hacker guy again. This one was the LeBlanc Taliyah hacker, and we place our MF in the middle. I think this might even be an even better positioning because with our like prankster, Zoe, perhaps the Taliyah aims for the Zoe, and that's exactly what happens, so our carries get saved a little bit. Do we still lose? I honestly forget. We are able to squeeze out a win. Man, actually, no, we don't. We still lose. Holy cow. No matter what we do against this guy, we're just losing. Since we know we're 100% facing the Kai'Sa player, we actually don't put in Sejuani anymore. We're going to put in the Rel instead for defender because the CC from Sej doesn't do anything against this team. Like, even if I CC the other guys, I don't think it does that much. Maybe it's a mistake, maybe not, because obviously armor doesn't do much either. But I was thinking with the QSS, it wasn't really that great. We end up dropping our MF in the corner there. He has a Cho'Gath, so I didn't want to get hit by him. But unfortunately, like, this team is just really strong. I mean, Rammus 3, Cho'Gath 3, Kai'Sa 3, no econ augments. Like, how am I supposed to beat this, you know? So we actually lose that round, but luckily the other person gets knocked out, so it is at least a second. I don't know what I could take this game, but I do take the Shroud because that would absolutely destroy me. We do a last second desperation roll down. It's actually pretty interesting because we see this Urgot here. I'm going to put it in for the Rel, and then we see another Urgot. So then I buy that, and then I sell the Sej, and then I roll once more. And guess what happens? We see another Urgot. And I actually just did not know what to sell. Perhaps we should have sold the Zac, bought the Urgot, and then put the tank items on Echo. The issue with that is, one, I don't have a lot of time, so it's hard to make that decision. And two, Zac is really good into Kai'Sa. The reason why is because Kai'Sa is single target damage. Zac puts up a bunch of clones. So Zac ends up being very effective against her. Stuff that Zac sucks against is stuff like Taliyah, because Taliyah AoEs everyone down. But this person's so strong. I think even if we played Urgot too, it's not like he has items or anything. So we just end up losing out and getting a second. So that is our run in the tournament. I'm going to show you guys the standings right now. We end up missing the cutoff by 1 point. We needed 24 and we got 23. And if we won, we would have won the tiebreakers. Perhaps if we had Vayne 3, we could have won. In fact, I think it definitely does win. But if you just see 0 copies of Vayne, you just can't really go for it. Also, like, there was a chance that 23 points could have been enough, but sometimes life doesn't work out that way. But overall, I'm very happy with my performance in the tournament. We got 18th out of like 160 players or something like that. And we picked up a lot of qualifier points, which should help us qualify for like the regional finals. I'm definitely going to try for that next set. I think if we did as well as we did in this tournament, in the one tournament next set, we might be able to make the regional finals. So I'm definitely looking forward to doing that. But for now, I'm going to take a break and probably do some like fun stuff in TFT for the rest of the set. I'll still do the tier list and stuff, but I think for like the streaming and gaming content, it'll be more like interesting things. Probably stuff you have not seen before, because I'm going to do like a soft protest in a way. You guys will find out in a moment. So just like subscribe for that if you have not already, or like follow my Twitch, because I'll probably do the games there first. But I'm happy for all of you guys who stuck around for all these videos. I'm happy for the people that watched it live as well, because we made an incredible run. So many close calls, and at the end, we barely don't make it. It's so tragic. I know, but we'll try next time, and we'll just keep on trying to improve. I'm going to go into like a hyperbolic time chamber and have Pakigam train me from like start to finish. So hopefully we'll be like on top next set, but we'll see. But thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you all later.